Bronte Creek Provincial Park, and it's the maple syrup festival, and we are going to get maple syrup. We are going to see how they make the maple syrup from the maple tree. Let's go.
In its location. Here at Bronte Creek, we are one of the best locations in the world that can produce maple syrup, or to produce sap that we make into maple syrup. So if you look at this red section on the map right here, this red section has just like the right type of climate and the right type of trees that grow, so maple trees, that we make, that create sap, and then we make it into maple syrup. So this typically, but now that we actually know kind of what trees make the sap, how do they actually make it? So they use it during a process called photosynthesis. They take the sunlight, the water from the ground, and the CO2 that we're breathing out right now to make this awesome thing that we like to call sap. In other words, it's the tree's syrup or it's the tree's food. So this typically happens during the spring and the summertime, and then as the weather gets a little bit more colder, the trees tend to go dormant. I'm now going to show you how they actually collected the sap during this season. Now that we know where sap comes from and how it's actually made, how do we actually collect it for ourselves? Well, that's what I'm going to be teaching you right here. We use a method called tapping. It's basically where we get a spile, not a file, not a mile, a spile, a hammer, we tap it in the tree, and then we put a bucket on it. It gets a little bit more complicated than that. The first step is actually identifying if we can tap the tree. The tree has to be 25 centimeters wide before we can even put a singular bucket on it or one spile on it. After that, it goes after 12 centimeters. So it's typically 25 centimeters, 37, and so on. The most a tree can have is 4 buckets or 4 spiles. Even if it's a really large tree, it's simply just only 4. So now that we know we can actually put a bucket on the tree, let's actually start the tapping process. First, we actually got to drill a hole on the tree. So now you would, in modern days, you would typically use a regular drill. I'm assuming most of you have one or seen one. But this is a more traditional method of a bit and a brace, it's called. So we're basically just going to find an empty spot on the tree, just kind of here works. You're going to kind of put pressure on it, and you're just going to basically start turning. Now I'm going to slightly turn this at an upward angle because the upward angle almost acts like a ramp for the sap to go down. And we're just going to screw until it's between like an inch and 3 inches in. 3 inches is the most that you want to screw into a tree. Alright, so this guy's a little bit more than an inch, but it's basically about there. Alright, so now we're actually going to start tapping. So this is the spile, and we're going to put it into the hole that we made. I believe it was this. Sorry, I lost the hole as you can tell. We'll just put it into a hole. So I'm just going to tap it on this part of the spile right here, because if we tap it here, it's going to actually bend the metal. That's not what you want to happen. So just for this demonstration, I'm just tapping it in slightly, just because you don't want to get it stuck in the tree. But normally you would just tap it in a little bit more than that. And now, because with the hook, we're just going to put the bucket on it. And that's basically all you do. Some buckets do have a lid to cover it up to make sure no like dirt or anything flies in there. And that's basically the most part about it.
It's small syrup. How much more? Like a little bit or a lot?
It doesn't even look like maple syrup. Look at the maple syrup. You want the bigger one? Maple syrup.
46. This one. In there. 35.
They tap this from this in the tree to get maple syrup in the bucket. And the maple syrup is not golden, but it's a little bit golden and it looks water, not sticky.
Now this method started 300 years ago by the indigenous peoples. We know they made maple syrup much earlier than that. We're just not quite sure when. 300 years ago is the only time we know, because that's when the Europeans came into Canada, and that's when they discovered this method. So this method is called the hollow log method. Now, I'll go over here just so more people can see me. So this method is called the hollow log method. They didn't have the right materials to actually put something over the fire. Because if they had a birch bowl, which kind of acts like almost parchment paper with water, the only problem with it is what happens when you put wood over fire? It burns, yeah. Another method they had a lot of clay. The only problem with it could technically work if the bowl was made very well. However, it cracks, and clay can even get explosive if it's really not done right and if it's just not taken care of properly. So it just wasn't the best method. Now, anyone can guess to me what will happen when I put the rock in the actual sack? Any guesses? Let's find out. Yeah.
It's hot rock,
So
right?
they would actually do multiple of those rocks every time. This method would actually take 24 hours to do. That is a long time of mending, keeping the fire going, transporting rocks back and forth from the sap to the fire. And that would only make 1 liter of maple syrup anyways.
The indigenous people use the hollow tree method to boil the maple syrup. We are going to the next step. Now they boil the maple syrup like this.
Happening in 12 hours. Or no, sorry. One batch would make 12 hours, but it's just a lot more efficient than only getting 1 liter of maple syrup in 24 hours. So I can actually show you guys kind of what it looks like. So this would be the first pot. This is, sorry guys, the smoke. This is when it'd be a lot of water still. This still has a lot of time to actually boil.
The sap that we collected from the trees is colorless, and when we boil it, it turns brown.
Oh, we just have the sap. Just the sap. That's it. It just not completely sap. Nothing is ever added in to make maple syrup. It's just simply sap boiled down. The reason it gets the darker color because as it boils down, it's just.
We saw 3 types of methods how to boil the sap in to make it maple syrup.
Did you have fun?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Bye, guys. Yes.
Now, to make maple syrup, they use modern maple syrup evaporators. Cow! Giant, big, fat cow! Oh!
Only this time of year.
So you're gonna pour it in and let it cool down?
So this is the cooling process. The stirring is the cool down process, and once it gets to a thicker, more granulated material, then we pour it in there.
Okay.
And then it'll take about 15 more minutes before it hardens, and it'll look like one of those candies on the plate right there.
Oh, okay.
They are putting the maple syrup in the maple leaf shape like this, the lollipop. Tastes like maple. maple syrup. It's very tasty. Today we have learned how to get maple syrup from the maple tree. So first you drill a hole in the maple tree here like this one, and then you put a small pipe like this pipe over here, and then you hang a bucket close under the pipe, and then you put a cover on it, and then you have to leave it for 24 hours, and then it will be full of sap from the trees, and it will leak. Come slowly. Then they get the bucket out of the tree and they boil it. They boil it, and then it's maple syrup, not sap anymore. It will be sticky, and you can make any candies or lollipop. Okay, guys, we had a lot of fun watering the maple syrup and seeing them. Bye bye.